Our first speaker is Galen Bullard, Human Flocking Behavior, Creating Solutions Without Leaders. Galen, don't be shy. Come on up.
This is a lack of leadership.
He's not flocking well.
Deflock yourself.
Are you Galen? Galen, anyone? Galen! Oh, look at that dramatic entrance. Just got off my helicopter. You're up right now. Yes.
I bet everyone here has some experience with floating new ideas. Have any of you encountered strong opposition when you presented a new idea? Yeah. And have you ever wondered if there's a way to smooth the acceptance of new ideas, to find an easier path? I have encountered this myself, and Arthur Schopenhauer's comment rang true for me. All truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. Which it is to us already if we're the one to carry the new idea. What he's describing is flocking behavior. Flocking behavior, I'm sure you've all seen in birds, or perhaps in film and video of fish. We call it schooling for them. Or herd behavior, if you've seen antelope fleeing from a lion or something in a video. The basic biological instinct that underlies flocking behavior is that there's safety in numbers. And last weekend, I believe it was in the Times Colonist, they described how the marmot population, which almost went extinct, started going from typical flocking behaviors where they stayed together in close groups. And as the population reached a certain threshold of near extinction, they actually became antisocial. And because the strength in numbers no longer worked. The numbers were too small to get that safety in numbers effect happening. There's been some research done using computer simulations into how flocking behavior works. That was first done in 1986. I had the good fortune to have as my simulations professor when I took my computer science degree, a fellow who wrote for Scientific American. And he showed us in our class how these simulation programs work for flocking behavior. When you run these simulations, you only need three rules. One is don't get too, I need to step back one level. You don't need a leader in a flock. And if you look really closely at a flock of birds or a school of fish in a video, you'll notice there is clearly no leader. The whole flock will turn this way and then that way. So suddenly everyone who is at the back is suddenly at the front. There's no leadership. It's different than a flock of geese in more of this sort of swarm kind of flock like you might see with starlings. And what the computer simulator programmers discovered is that you really only need three rules. One is don't get too close together because it's not good to bump into each other. Don't get too far apart. Stay close to your neighbors. And that keeps the cohesion of the group, so you've got safety in numbers. And the third one is watch what direction everyone else is heading. It seems that rule's function is to make sure you don't kind of get caught out. You're staying close to your neighbors, but if you're on the outside edge of the flock, and suddenly everyone goes that way, you can kind of get left behind as a straggler. So you need to watch which way they're going. It's not enough to just stay close to your neighbors. These behaviors, I've noticed, show up for humans as well. We have a flocking instinct. Can any of you think of any examples that you think might represent that?
Facebook.
Yeah, I would concur on that.
Sports and urban development.
Fashion.
Yes, definitely fashion.
Politics.
Yeah, in a way that makes sense. That would be an interesting case because there's a lot of planning and forethought that goes into that as well. And something about flocking behavior is it happens at an instinctual level. So some things that happen with forethought are still being influenced by that unconscious instinct.
What are the guys in the bar?
Sure. Or FIFA World Cup, perhaps. There's tipping points in the movement of a flock. You can see it if you look at some of the simulations or at some of the live footage, where everyone's going this way, and suddenly, just a few of them, if you have to, like, if you look at some of the videos on YouTube, if you search there for flocking simulations or flocking of birds, if you run the video many, many times so that you start to really get accustomed to it, the exact detail of the images, what you're seeing, you'll notice that one edge of the flock starts shifting before the others. Sometimes you can see that when there's a predator involved. There's also some videos that show a predator. And I think it's called Deep Blue Sea. There's a documentary about the ocean that shows fish schooling together, and the predator comes through the middle, and the school splits. And then they all come back together again as fast as they can. And you'll see that there's like a leading edge sometimes involved in that. And a couple of British researchers did some research onto how tipping points work. And what they found is in humans, about 5% was the tipping point. And it relates back to that third rule. If you've got your flock moving in one direction, 5% of them start heading in another direction, and you're watching what, rule 3 is watch what direction everyone else is going. Apparently that 5% is enough to trigger other people to start turning, because they think, oh, okay, the flock's going to start turning now, I better, it's better to be at the leading edge than to be a straggler, it seems. I noticed an incidence of this that seemed to me one of these tipping points with climate change. Just over a year, between about 1 year ago and a year and a half ago, it seemed to me that suddenly climate change denial dropped off dramatically, and it seemed that everyone seemed to accept it as self-evident. And then the whole ClimateGate thing happened with the researchers in Britain, and that seemed to re-enliven the denial side of the argument, and it no longer is taken as self-evident, as far as I can see in mass media, general public opinion. Perhaps it will shift back. So that is an example, I think, that brings us to how I think it could be useful for us to look at flocking behavior when we're bringing up new ideas. Our flocking instinct, I think, can make it harder for us to receive a new idea. I also observe there seems to be some people who take new ideas on more readily than others. And I'm not sure what that difference is. I haven't really given that too much thought yet. But taken as a whole, humankind seems to have a hard time taking on new ideas. And I think what that is that it's recognized that a new idea could split the flock. 1 minute. And anything that splits the flock reduces the power of safety in numbers. So a new idea is, perhaps even at a subconscious level, considered dangerous. So in order to help people accept a new idea, there's a few steps that I'll go through briefly, and maybe we can break up and discuss them in more detail later. The first is to use familiar ideas to build a bridge to the new idea. An example of that popped in my mind was trickle-down economics. A simple concept like trickling water, everyone's familiar with it. You apply it to economics and it sort of makes sense. Deliver your idea. Don't try and deliver the idea to the mainstream of people. Look for those people who are leading edge thinkers, because they're the ones who will grab it most readily. That'll be the most effective way to do it. Then empower the leading edge through events like this one. because there's another aspect of flocking behavior called convergence. When people with similar ideas, feelings, beliefs, behaviors come together, it's like that safety in numbers. Oh, look, everyone has the same idea I have. We're all heading in the same direction together. So creating forums where people can feel that convergence, I think could also make it easier for those people to feel they've adopted the new idea and they're on the right track, so that they're not constant. I find that I feel like, am I on the right track? Because everyone else seems to think this is crazy. The other thing, another step, is to create public visibility that looks normal to them, so that the new idea is sort of in a familiar package, such as a business. Business is considered normal and acceptable, so if you take some sort of an ecological idea that might not be acceptable or accepted yet. And the final thing is to create familiarity through repetition, because repetition makes the idea no longer seem so new and possibly threatening. And if we use these things, I have a prediction to make, that we're more likely to succeed in advancing our new ideas. Thank you.